Hello, dear friends. Hello, everyone. We are so excited. It's another wonderful and great Tuesday. And here we are, Jennifer from CelebrityCatwalk and Vasi from Petpix. And I just feel that it's not Tuesday if we are not here together. So how are you doing, Jennifer? Are you excited?
Great. How are you? How are you, Vasi? How are you?
I'm doing okay, and I'm really so excited for today because I feel that if it's like Tuesday would be empty if we don't get together and we don't have our amazing guests.
Exactly. It wouldn't be a Tuesday if we're not here talking about all things fur baby related. So it's another Tuesday and this is what's happening. Absolutely.
Exactly. And so I was like very honestly, like really, it was for me very special when you sent me the information for our special guest today. And I was very touched because one more time, as all of us, we know you're a very given person. You just showcase how given you are and how you think always for people. And we know that all the events, all the fashion, every day, it's a lot of joy and a lot of reason to celebrate. But we also know that unfortunately, some of our babies have shorter life compared to humans. One of the reasons why I became a photographer and why I created even Petpix in the first place. And you said again how you go above and beyond and find a special guest today. So can you tell me how did you meet the guest with the VIP guest?
Absolutely. So like you said, this is a really, unfortunately, our fur babies never live long enough. They're not with us long enough. Please, as you come on in, folks, please tag people, share. If you don't share any other videos, I think this is a key video. We are talking about pet loss today, or I should say, pet love and loss today, fur baby love and loss. And I thought that this was obviously a topic, Vasi, that it affects you, it affects me, it affects Paws in the City. We try, for those who have attended, in some small way, we try to bring our fallen fur babies, as I call them, who are no longer with us, into the picture. We try to memorialize them in some small way every show. But this was a topic that I felt at the very least needed, at least we need to do one show. So please come on in, folks, and share. And please also, as we talk, please feel free to field questions. If you have questions for our special guest today, please feel free to type them. I am going to be manning the phones, as they say. I'm manning the phones. And so I will be able to tackle any comments, any questions you may have. And as I thought that this was a good topic for us, Vasi, I thought, let me find an expert, because, you got to find someone who knows more. And I stumbled in my research. I found Stephanie Rogers over the weekend. Her website is embracingyourgrief.com. And God bless Stephanie, she sprung into action. She responded immediately, and she made herself available for us today. So I am very, very thrilled that we have Stephanie Rogers with us today. Miss Stephanie is a licensed, certified grief counselor. She is what's known as, she's also a thanatologist. I had to look up what thanatology was because, of course, I did not know that it is the study of death and all things death. She deals with death on all levels, or maybe I should say transitions on all levels: adolescence grief, human being grief. But since 2017, she has worked almost exclusively in the field of veterinary medicine, veterinary care, all things veterinary. So Stephanie Rogers, embracing your grief. Make a note of that, folks. Tag a friend, tell a friend. Please share this video and feel free to add your comments, because I will absolutely ask Stephanie to help us if you are dealing with something that is really too overwhelming. But you can also always book private sessions with Stephanie one-on-one at embracingyourgrief.com. She is available for you there to delve into grief counseling on any level that you need to have done. So I have definitely talked more than enough. I'm going to shut up now, but I am very thrilled to have Stephanie Rogers with us of embracingyourgrief.com.
Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I am honored to be here with you. I'm just so excited to even learn that the two of you exist
Yes.
in your wonderful organization. I'm always so excited to tap into other aspects of the animal companion community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for making yourself available. I mean, there's so many different ways we can tackle this, but I think, I guess the first thing, because I think we often hear, there are two things that we often hear, I think, when a fur baby goes, of course, from those outside of the pet community, we often hear, oh, it was only a dog.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
What did you think? What did you think was going to happen? This is only a dog. They lived a long life, you know, get over yourself. Please, please, what do you feel is your response, or how do you think is the best way for people, I don't know, to begin to deal with the loss of a loved fur friend?
Well, what you're describing, I'm a firm believer that information is power, as long as that information is truthful and fact-based. And so I like to begin by explaining to people what kind of loss the loss of a beloved animal companion is. And this speaks exactly to what you're just describing. Oh, well, it was only a dog. It's just a cat. You always knew this was going to happen, all that kind of stuff. The loss of a beloved animal companion is what is technically called a disenfranchised loss. Now, a disenfranchised loss is any loss that is not readily acknowledged, honored, or recognized by society at large. Other disenfranchised losses include miscarriage, abortion, AIDS-related deaths, still all these years later, even COVID deaths, suicide, murder. But at the top of the list is the loss of a beloved animal companion, because that loss is basically dismissed by society at large. Outside of the animal community, it's just pushed aside. It's considered less than. And so the grief that arises from that loss is disenfranchised grief. So in many ways, unfortunately, in the West, particularly in the United States, because we are such a death-denying society, all grief is disenfranchised to a certain extent, because we don't know what to do with the grieving. And we are not comfortable with death. We're not comfortable with loss. And so we say, sorry for your loss, and we move on, whether that's virtually or face-to-face. And so grief in general is isolating. But the loss of a beloved animal companion, that isolation is just exacerbated, because you are not free to share your loss. You have to stop and think. You're constantly filtering. Well, is this a venue in which I'm safe to really express how gutted I am by this death? Or do I just need to keep my mouth shut in order to preserve myself in some way? So that's probably, if I had to pick one aspect of animal companion loss that is the most universal, it is the fact that it is a disenfranchised loss, and that the grief arising from it is disenfranchised grief.
It's very interesting. And I knew that today, again, I really, first of all, want to say, I hope that whoever is watching or listening this as a podcast, friends, please be open-minded. A lot of us may say, but it didn't happen to me. It happened to me a very long time ago. You might be surprised. There might be some of our friends who are going through this. And as a person who, I lost my fur baby when I was a teenager. And one of the reasons why I do what I do and being a photographer, I'm probably one of the first people who even know. And dealing with this, it's very difficult. And you may say this is just a profession. And those are your babies, they are your kids. And Stephane said it very nicely, is that some of you may say, why, like, is it okay if I grieve? And then it is. And then that's why, you know, please be open-minded. But it's just, it's not an easy. And everyone, at least in my very humble experience, in you, the professionals, I have people who even 2, 3, 5 years later, they still can't even get a new pet because they are still grieving. And like you coming today to us, it's such a gift, because we can see it. Some of us maybe ask themselves the question, is it normal? Am I crazy? I'm going through it.
Yeah, I get a lot of that. I mean, almost every single client that comes to me is questioning their own sanity. And they're asking, am I doing this right? Or if they're not asking, am I doing this right? They're looking for the right way to do it. And it's really important to understand there is no right way to grieve. There is no wrong way to grieve. There is only your way to grieve. And however you grieve is normal. I've been a grief counselor for, it'll be 18 years here in a couple of weeks. And I have never seen grief that I felt was abnormal. Yes, of course, there are life circumstances, life challenges, there are mental health challenges that can exacerbate your grief experience. But it's important to remember that grief is not a mental illness. There's not something wrong with you because you're grieving. It can feel that way because the experience is so intense. And because society does not support us, we're not shown healthy ways of grieving in society. We're either shown what I call the Hallmark Channel method of grief, which is everybody cries for about 5 minutes. Nobody's makeup gets smeared. And then we cut to commercial. And when we come back, everybody's okay. They've moved on. They've let go. They've gotten over it. That's what's put in front of us. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the real world experience of grief.
Yes.
By the way, I like the way you described it.
Yes, the Hallmark.
You can make, you know, like that's a serious topic, but
absolutely
you described it in a very awesome way. Sorry. And I know that it's very serious topic again, but it's, I hope people, it's just really, please friends, be open-minded.
Absolutely.
You're not lonely. All of us, we experience it. It's just some of us, we choose to showcase it again, virtually, again, you know, like send a card, send a gift, and then actually you truly see who are your real friends. I mean,
you do. Yeah, you absolutely do.
You have people who would say, I'm sorry. And then you have people who are really will go a step above and beyond to really support you in a way. And I know that I know Mary Ellen is watching, who is our very dear friend. She recently lost her baby, and I will show in a little bit her stuff. But when she went through this process, she didn't know, but we had a private chat with few people, and each of us was checking on her, how she is doing, from the simple thing of drinking water to don't get dehydrated, to don't get to this depression, and etc. So it's normal, Stephane.
Yes, that's one of the greatest things that you can do. what happens a lot of times is we say to someone who's grieving, let me know if what I can do for you. Well, the bereaved, which is someone who is grieving, they don't know. They don't know what day it is, much less for you to say to them, tell me how I can help you. Well, if they're going to be honest, the only answer they can give you is to say, you want to help me? Bring my baby back to life. That's the only thing that they can feel is going to help them. So say less and do more. If you have a friend or a coworker or someone in your social group or at your job that has experienced a death, instead of just writing sorry for your loss on a card and dropping it off, go to the store and buy $50 worth of toilet paper and tissues and drop it off at their house. Don't knock on the door and ask to come in. Drop it off, knock on the door and leave so they don't have to interact with you. Leave a little card so they know that you've done it, or send them a text, but put your care into action. Now, that means that you're going to have to think, you're going to have to ask yourself, and one of the best ways you can ask yourself is, when I've been grieving, what would feel like care to me? What would help me? If they have other animals, or if they have human children, and one of the animals has died, offer to come pick up the other animals for a play date, or the human children, take them to the park. Do practical things. Don't just stand back and say, let me know if you need something. Because most of the time when people say that, internally they're thinking, I really hope they won't need anything because I don't know what to do.
That's true. Honestly.
Very true. Very true. Stephanie, I'd also like you to please touch on, I think that I would like you to please touch on a little bit, because I know that everyone processes grief differently. For me, for instance, I lost my first dog passed away when Coco, I think she was 17. She had lived, and I took comfort. I took a lot of comfort, and it made me feel a lot better in knowing that she had lived this incredible, she had lived a long life. And I even, tried to, when she would turn 14 and she would turn 15 and when she was 16, I try to mentally, just like with my parents, my dad is 84 now. So I'm trying to, mentally start to think about it. But then we all know people, I'm sure, who I know people whose fur babies passed away at 18, 19, 20, and they are gutted.
Of course. Yeah.
And so please, I guess, for lack of a better, I know I'm totally simple and dumbing it down, but what comforts one person, what I necessarily took comfort in obviously may not helps the next person.
Well, you make a very good point, and thank you for bringing them up and bringing your parents up, because part of the reason that the loss of a beloved animal is so devastating is because of the relationship that we have. First of all, grief in general, we are grieving the loss of a relationship. We don't grieve just the physical presence of that being. We are grieving the day in, day out relationship with that being. The experiential relationship of humans to animals, and now I'm generalizing here, of course, it's very individual for everyone. But I'm just speaking in general terms. But that relationship is that of parent to child. They are completely dependent upon us. for their food, for their lodging, for their health care, for their love. They're completely dependent upon us, the same way that a human child is dependent on its parents. So intellectually, we know that an animal has a lifespan, an expected lifespan of approximately 1/5 of that of a human being. We know that intellectually. We know that in most cases, every year that we get, once they hit double digits, is just gravy. It's, if depending upon the species, the size of the breed, all that. So even though we know that, and as you say, with your parents, you're trying to prepare, and you started preparing with Coco at 14 and 15. By the time you lost Coco at 17, all that preparation, I'm assuming, probably did you absolutely no good, because it doesn't. There's no way to prepare. So there's a cognitive dissonance that goes on within us, because intellectually we know their lifespan is so much less than ours, and that more than likely they are going to die before we do. However, experientially, we live with them in the relationship of parent to child, and a child is never supposed to die before their parents die. If the parent is 90 and the child is 70, it is still an out of order death. So that's what we feel in the gut level. We feel the experience of the death of a child, an out of order death. That is exacerbated and confused by the fact that people around us, but even our own mind, is also saying, but you knew, you've always known they were going to die first. It's not an out of order death because they were supposed to die first. But experientially, it is an out of order death. It is, they are not supposed to die before we do, because they're our children.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Is there anything, I don't, are there any tips or anything that you would tell a pet parent to do to, I hate to say soften the blow, but just take comfort in, or what do you suggest for pet parents who have experienced recent loss?
Well, the first thing that I like to do is to teach everyone about disenfranchised grief, to give, as I said, I believe information and knowledge is power. And so that when you know why you feel isolated and pushed aside, that's not something that you're making up in your head. That is exactly what's happening to you. That is exactly what society in general does, is discount your grief, put it aside. So just knowing that, it's called normalizing what you're experiencing. So I try to offer as much information as I can to help normalize what people are experiencing so that they feel less crazy. And by explaining the relationship and why that loss is so intense, there are no formulas to grief. There just isn't. We like formulas. We want, as you say, tips. People come to me, they want me to tell them what to do in order to feel better. There's really nothing to do, to be done with grief. The only way out of the pain of grief is through it. The only way to end the pain is to feel the pain. So the reason my little business is called Embracing Your Grief is because that is what I encourage and try to teach people to do, is just that. Instead of doing what society tells us to do with grief, what we feel with every fiber of our being we want to do with grief, which is push it away. Instead of doing that, have the courage to literally sit down and say to your grief, okay, come on, whatever it is that you have for me, I'm here. And the greatest comfort that you can find in doing this is to call out the name of your beloved dead and ask them to help you through this process. Because that is we are told to move on, let go, get over it. Erase that from your mind. And I believe that most anyone who has ever been told that, internally their response has been, no, that's not right. I know that's not right. Because intuitively, we do know how to grieve. We really do. As human animals ourselves, we know how to grieve. It's just that society for so many decades has told us, no, that's not, however you're wanting to grieve, that's not right. You need to keep a stiff upper lip. You need to not let it show. You need to let go and move on. What grief really is about is incorporating the reality of the physical death of your beloved animal into your life, but at the same time, realizing that your bond with them did not and does not die. That bond continues. We are challenged with how to access that bond now that they're no longer in physical form, but we are. So we have to think outside the box. We have to get curious. But the minute that I say to people, you don't have to let them go. You shouldn't let them go. You need to keep them with you and carry them forward with you into the rest of your life. Every time I say that to someone, the relief that comes across them is palpable, because they realize that the reason they have said, I don't want to let go and move on, is because they're not supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. And to be honest with you, I have to say, I'm the person who writes. So look at the notes.
Taking copious notes. I love it. I love it.
I'm glad. I encourage people to take notes.
And I would suggest, friends, release on this, podcast or a video. You can save it, into your social media and just release. We'll be also on our Petpix Academy YouTube channel and CelebrityCatwalk. But this is like Stephanie saying, like something like so many true things. And I would say, again, I was very young when I lost my doggies, and the way I choose to continue the legacy. And I just actually have to say, I don't have any pictures of my doggies when I was growing up. And it's imprinted in my head how Sunny, the oldest one, came in front of our door, looked at me and my sister for permission to leave us. Well, I repurpose my grief to help me navigate to become a pet photographer and to do what I love doing on a daily basis. And now when Mary Ellen lost her doggie, and that's one thing I showed to Stephanie, I still found a way, and I told her, turn your grief to a superpower fuel.
Yes.
And I don't know if you believe in this, but
I do.
It's like you choose, what you're going to do with it. And Mary Ellen and I let her be. And of course, we have so many other friends, but this is what it really happened, honestly, a month ago. And that's why I want to showcase it. And when we started the magazine, Petpix Academy magazine, and as you know, we have a lot of beautiful things about Celebrity Catwalk, but I just felt in honor of my doggies, I'm going to do a celebration of life. And as you can see here, this is an honorable night. And that was our first, in fact, this is the last picture I took, and it's in Celebrity Catwalk. So Celebrity Catwalk, it's a very, like, I tell Jennifer, she's the lucky one. She sees us in the, you know, she showed us the beautiful part of life. But that was the first way to do like a magazine memorial. And, you know, we do have regular highlights, but just, this is a way maybe for you, friends, print your pictures. Or just some people, I mean, Stephane will tell us, some people, they do fundraising events.
Yeah.
They open charity. Here, this is Sabrina. She lost her doggy. She became two of them. She created the whole, you know, brand. And you know, she is a pet clothing designer in honor of her doggies. You know, we have Ada, who lost Mojito again. And you know, I took actually a quote, but the idea is that you can find the right time. This is Connie. She's one of my students. Another cute baby here. You know, Cooper, we know he's like, he made so much impact in our community. And just, you find the way, friends, how to really repurpose your grief.
Yeah.
What do you think, Stephane?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I call that giving purpose to the pain.
Wow.
And it is, I believe that grief is meant to be a transformational process. And transformation, when we hear that word, we tend to think of some other being on high who reaches down and touches us gently and boom, we're changed. That's not what transformation is. Transformation is chaotic and scary, and you get dirty and bloody, and it's frightening, and you're not sure, and a lot of it's done in the dark, and when the light comes, it's blinding light. But when you go through it, you are truly transformed. You are another being than the being you were before it happened. And that's what grief does. When you choose to embrace that process, that's when you can give purpose to the pain. Because if you just sit back and say, this hurts too much, I'm going to drink it away, or smoke it away, or eat it away, or work it away, or exercise it away, we can find any way to distract ourselves from our grief. But then you lose the power, you give away the power to transform. You cannot give purpose to your pain if you are so busy hiding from it. It's only when you have the courage and you realize that that courage comes from the deep desire to honor those who have died, to represent them in the world, then that's where transformational change takes place.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have people watching. Hi, LL and Lynn, and Mary Ellen is watching, and Danielle. Thank you all. Don't forget to hit that share button as you come on in. And if you have any questions, we're talking about the inevitable subject of pet loss with a certified grief counselor, Stephanie Rogers of EmbraceYourGrief.com. Really good information, Stephanie. And do you think there's a point, you think you know when it's time? Will your heart tell you, for those who maybe only have one or want to get another fur baby? Is there a right time? Is there a wrong time?
Well, that's not there. I can give you a general answer, but it's a very individual decision. But in general, I really encourage people to wait a couple of months, because what happens very often is the pain is so intense, and this is completely natural, it's completely normal, that we want to plug something in to that empty spot. Unfortunately, if we do that too soon, it doesn't matter. I've had so many clients say, oh, I know, I'm not trying to replace Fluffy. I'm really not. I'm looking for a completely different cat, and I'm not trying. And then they get this new baby home, and it's not unusual for it to have been a real mistake. There's resentment because that new baby isn't fluffy. The experience of having a new animal in, because you have to remember, you're bringing in a family member, and your family is wounded. You know, your family may have been just you and your animal, but you were still a family, and the family includes the environment. So I usually encourage people to wait a couple of months. And this is again where you have to call on your courage to experience your grief, to live with your grief. I'm hesitant to say, oh, your heart will let you know, because your heart may be screaming that it wants another animal for comfort. But that is not necessarily the best thing to do right away. Now, again, that's a generalization. There are always individual circumstances that are different, but I do think it is by and large better to wait a couple of months before you do that.
I think it's a great, great advice. And can I just, what do you think? Can I ask you and again, it's a personal choice, but sometimes people tend to try to find a similar looking doggy or a kitty cat or a pet. Is that a good thing? Or maybe would you encourage for people to try to find a pet they can connect to it? And sometimes they might be surprised by what would kind of catch their heart.
Yes. Yeah. Again, that kind of falls and you're right. It's always an individual thing. But whenever a client comes to me and they're saying, you know, I'm actively looking for another Cavalier King Charles that's the exact same color, and, you know, I want to go to the same location, I always get concerned, because my concern being that what they may be trying to do in that situation is fill a hole that can never be filled and isn't supposed to be filled. I have an image of what happens when we lose anyone that we love, any being that we love. But let's just say in this case, it's a dog. Then that dog has burrowed and nested into your heart. And there is a place in your heart that's the exact shape of that dog. Only that dog is ever going to fit into that place. And when that dog dies, that part of your heart feels like it dies as well. But you're never going to be able to take another dog, even if it's the same size, the same sex, the same breed, and plug it into that spot. It's never going to fit. Now, the heart is ever expanding, and other room is made, and other dogs come in and they burrow their way in and they leave their imprint. But the dog that you lost, the animal that you lost, that is a sacred place in your heart. And that is their place, and it doesn't belong to someone else. And I think that to try to fit another animal into that spot is to set yourself up for a lot of extra heartache, and also isn't fair to the new animal that you're bringing into your family, because they have their own being. They're bringing their own gifts and their own personality and their own lessons to you. They're not a replacement.
Thank you. Thank you very much for educating us. And I do have only one last question, and then whatever else. And I apologize, this is from just pure being a photographer. How do like for me, when we lost our kitty, it was very devastating, like for everyone. But I just felt that printing a canvas of her in honor, and in the beginning was very difficult. I mean, I was looking at this her portrait every time when I was entering the home, and I printed a big one, 24 by 36, really big. She's actually, and then slowly with time and acceptance, it started becoming a little easier and easier. And I also had to make a choice to choose a picture where she was looking healthy and a picture when she didn't look healthy. So what is your kind of recommendation? And I understand that every case is different, but just from the photography point of view, I just wanted to hear your, opinion as a professional.
Well, my choice is both. Both.
Interesting.
Because both are her. It's not, lots of times people ask me, particularly if the animal has had a wasting disease, if the disease has gone on for a long time and it's really debilitated how they look. And so that their last memories are of them as being sick. And people are afraid that that's going to be all they remember. And I like to point out that they have so many more years worth of memories when their baby was not sick. And those memories are still here. They're still in your head. And they are going to move to the front. Well, from a photograph standpoint, just the same way that you may have pictures of them when they were puppies or kittens, and then as they learned to do more things and changed, you got more photographs of birthdays or special events. Their death, their illness and their death is not a happy thing, but it is part of their life and it deserves to be honored as well. So that's why I say both.
Thank you.
Have all the pictures.
Thank you. I appreciate this, and believe me, I will pass the word to a lot of people I photographed, because it's we actually did, and then I'm done with it, but I actually did, and I live stream part of the session. We knew that it's the last session, but the mom, she wanted to be a fun one, and that was, I mean, like she said he's an old gentleman. And she ordered like license plates from with the letters of his name of every state they used to live, and we had a lot of fun. She bought him like glasses, and just like it was great. So sometimes you can turn, even if it's the last time you're taking pictures of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Unleash the creativity and create this beautiful memory. But I'm sorry, I'm done, and thank you so much for everything. We really appreciate it. Jennifer, do you have any questions or maybe any?
No, this has been excellent. Stephanie has really answered questions. Mary Ellen is on and she's watching, and she said, to Stephanie's point, it took me 2 years to get Lanai after I lost another palm. So as you said, Stephanie, I think you just have to be very gentle with yourself and allow yourself grace to move on and not really move on, because you did delve into that, but to just do things at your own pace and at your own speed and when it feels most comfortable for you. Folks, I encourage you, if you're really having a hard time, please reach out to Stephanie privately and directly at embracingyourgrief.com. And well, I'll let Stephanie give all her social media platforms. So, but embracingyourgrief.com is where you can absolutely read more about her, and you can book sessions with her if you really feel like you're struggling with things and it's going to take some one-on-one. We encourage you to reach out to her personally and professionally, and of course privately. And she is a licensed, certified grief specialist who can help you deal with some tougher issues if you feel you're having a hard time dealing with it on your own.
And may I also remind to some people that a lot of times, exactly going back to what to get to our loved ones and friends who are dear to us, and maybe friends try to get a gift certificate, maybe talk to other people, and instead of getting things, you maybe consider getting a, like a session.
A session. That's an interesting thing, Vasi. That's very interesting. Yeah.
I actually, I had a number of clients request that I start offering gift certificates, and I do have them on my site.
Oh,
Great. So, and
when I like,
if you know someone, folks, who's really having a hard time, that's incredible. I didn't even think of that, Vasi. That's genius. Yeah, you can get a gift certificate, and they can deal with it when they're ready, at their own speed, at their own time, personally and professionally. Genius. Absolutely wonderful.
Well, we have the professional genius here with us.
Thank you.
And her baby. And
Thank
just to, tell us also where people can find you. And just to finish it positive, tell us a little bit about your doggy, please, because
that was fancy. And I apologize, but it's starting to thunder here, and she's absolutely fearless, except when it comes to thunder.
Of course.
And she wants me to hold her. She could possibly have also wanted everyone to look at her. She's kind of that way too.
She's very cute and beautiful.
Thank you.
Smiles on our faces, because again, this is it's an interesting topic, and again, it's difficult for a lot of people, but we cannot thank you enough for bringing us your wisdom again. Just want to say, look at this and look at this. Tell me.
No,
I'm proud of you. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Notes.
I just feel that a lot of people, and that's why encouraging them, all of us, we accept information in a different way. One of the reasons we have magazine, we have a podcast, you can see it with your eyes. So the big questions for you, friends, who you are when it comes to understanding. And I like to write, break it down you said there, it's not a form, but just breaking it down for you to understand.
Yes.
So that's my big notes for me.
I think that's wonderful.
Thank you. Well, and tell people where they can find you, either than your website.
Sure. The easiest thing to do is just go to embracingyourgrief.com, my website. All my social links are on the front page. I do have a YouTube channel where I regularly upload what I call grief tips. They're just little short, 3 to 5 minute blurbs of grief information. But yeah, look me up any place that you go for social media, because I'm probably there, and it's always under Embracing Your Grief.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And friends, if you're watching this on Facebook, or if you're listening this as a podcast, we already have Stephanie's information in the description of this video. And if you listen this as a podcast, it will be below in the description. I cannot thank you enough for coming today with us. And thank you so much, Jennifer, again, for going above and beyond, because you, I would say, our fashion person, not only you're the part where we create the fun memories. People for all of these years, they had fun, they dress the babies, and now going above and beyond and telling people, listen, when we lose our babies, we are going to go through it together. And here it's Stephanie to give you some tips and tricks and just her wisdom. Thank you very much to both of you for being with us today on the show, and to all the viewers. And friends, make sure you go and say hi to Stephanie, share this, just so you can help more people. It's all about helping. Because if it wasn't Jennifer, I wouldn't even know. I'm sorry, but such a thing exists. So thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vasi.
Well, thank you. I was honored to be here with you. Thank you for the work that both of you do.
Oh, thank you.
We appreciate you, and I know that we will see you again. So thank you very much. Thank you, friends, for watching, for listening. And just know that if you are sad, if you're going through this experience, this is normal. You're not the only one, but now we are very fortunate to know the right person, Stephanie, So make sure you go to her website, make sure you check her YouTube channel, and just watch and rewatch this podcast or this live. So thank you very much. Have a great day, friends. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Bye.